What if I told you that the daughter of wrestling's most powerful man secretly couldn't stand its biggest hero? For decades, Stephanie McMahon smiled alongside Hulk Hogan at events, posed for photos, and helped build his legacy. But behind closed doors, she was hiding something explosive. And now, after all these years, she's finally opening up about what really happened. Some of these revelations are so shocking, they might change everything you thought you knew about the Hulkster. Trust me, you're going to want to hear this entire story. Let's go back to the beginning. Stephanie McMahon was born into wrestling royalty in September of 1976. Her father, Vince McMahon, was busy transforming a small regional wrestling business into a massive global entertainment empire. While most kids her age were playing with dolls and action figures, Stephanie was literally growing up backstage at wrestling shows. She watched history being made right before her eyes, and at the center of that history was one man, a larger-than-life character with blonde hair, a thick mustache, red and yellow clothing, and a catchphrase that everyone knew. Hulk Hogan became the face of professional wrestling in the 80s. He wasn't just a wrestler. He was a cultural phenomenon. Kids everywhere were saying their prayers and taking their vitamins just like he told them to. He was selling out arenas and appearing on mainstream television shows. He was basically treated like a superhero. Here's where things get interesting. Despite growing up in a world where everyone worshipped Hulk Hogan, despite her own father building an entire company around his popularity, and despite even modeling Hogan merchandise as a young girl for WWE catalogs, Stephanie McMahon had a secret. She actually couldn't stand cheering for the guy. For years, nobody knew about this. She kept it hidden, playing her PU, art in the family business, while privately rolling her eyes at Hulkamania. Then, in early 2025, during an appearance on a popular sports show, Stephanie finally let the truth slip out. When asked about her preference for playing villain characters instead of hero characters throughout her career, she made a shocking confession. She admitted that even as a child, she never liked cheering for Hulk Hogan. She said she always preferred the bad guys, the heels as they're called in wrestling. While millions of kids around the world were glued to their televisions watching Hogan defeat the villains, the daughter of his boss was secretly rooting for those same villains. Think about how crazy that is for a second. The irony is almost unbelievable. Here was Hogan telling kids to be good, eat healthy, and follow their dreams, while the daughter of the man who created that entire message was thinking it was all kind of silly. Stephanie found herself drawn to wrestlers with more edge, more complexity, more attitude. Hogan's straightforward good guy persona just didn't do it for her. She wanted characters with layers, not just someone who flexed their muscles and gave life advice. But personal feelings aside, Stephanie's professional life became deeply connected to Hogan's career. As she grew up and took on bigger roles within WWE, she had to work with him whether she liked it or not. In the early 2000s, she was actually credited with bringing Hogan back to WWE after he had left years earlier. This created some compelling television drama with her father, who was portrayed as being against Hogan's return. During this time, Stephanie was involved in planning Hogan's matches and storylines. One particularly memorable moment involved a gimmick where Hogan returned wearing a mask as a character called Mr. America. It was supposed to be a disguise, but everyone knew it was really him. Stephanie, playing the role of general manager, hired Mr. America anyway, just to annoy her father on screen. It made for entertaining television, even if things were more complicated behind the scenes. And complicated they were. Backstage tensions reportedly flared when Hogan didn't like some of Stephanie's creative ideas. According to sources, he actually pushed to have her removed from her position as SmackDown general manager. This wasn't just friendly disagreement. This was Hogan using his influence and power to try to undermine her authority. But Stephanie wasn't about to back down. She confronted him directly about his attempts to get her fired, and he was forced to take back his words. This moment revealed a lot about both of their personalities. Hogan had a legendary ego and wasn't afraid to play political games. Stephanie, meanwhile, showed she could stand up for herself, even against one of wrestling's biggest stars. Stephanie has always been honest about Hogan's actual wrestling ability, or lack thereof. During congressional testimony back in 2008, She made headlines by stating under oath that Hogan was a terrible wrestler. But she wasn't just being mean. She explained that technical wrestling skill isn't everything in the entertainment business. Hogan only had about 3 basic moves, and his matches weren't exciting from a pure wrestling standpoint. However, she gave him credit for what he was good at, which was connecting with audiences and creating memorable moments. Throughout the 2010s, Stephanie and Hogan's public relationship appeared friendly and professional. She would post photos with him on social media, calling him an icon and expressing excitement about his appearances. She even worked with him on charity events for breast cancer awareness. To the outside world, everything looked perfectly fine between them. But what Stephanie hasn't talked about publicly is arguably more revealing than what she has said. Notably, Stephanie went completely silent about Hogan after a major scandal erupted in 2015. Audio from an adult tape leaked to the media, revealing Hogan using terrible racial slurs. WWE fired him immediately, removed him from their Hall of Fame, and stopped selling his merchandise. Stephanie's social media posts mentioning Hogan stopped abruptly in the summer of 2015 and didn't resume until years later, after he was quietly brought back into WWE's good graces. Her silence during this controversy spoke volumes. She wasn't going to publicly defend the indefensible, but she also wasn't going to throw gasoline on the fire by commenting. When Stephanie's recent comments about never being a Hogan fan went viral, wrestling fans had a lot to say. Social media exploded with reactions. Thousands of people liked and shared clips of her interview. Many fans praised her honesty and saw her comments as a subtle dig at Hogan, especially given his controversial history. Some viral posts received tens of thousands of likes, with fans saying she was right to finally speak her truth. The overwhelming response was positive towards Stephanie, with many people feeling validated that someone from inside the wrestling world was being real about Hogan's flaws. But Stephanie's childhood confession was really just scratching the surface, because the deeper you dig into Hulk Hogan's history, especially regarding his treatment of women and fellow wrestlers, the darker things become. While direct accusations from female wrestlers are rare, there's a troubling pattern of behavior that spans decades, and it involves exploitation, power imbalances, and some truly disturbing incidents. One of the most well-documented controversies involves Miss Elizabeth, one of wrestling's earliest female stars. She was the beautiful manager for Randy Savage during wrestling's golden era. What started as on-screen drama between Hogan, Elizabeth, and her real-life husband Randy Savage soon became very real and very messy. Savage was known for being extremely jealous and paranoid. Multiple wrestlers have confirmed that he would actually lock Elizabeth in dressing rooms to prevent her from talking to other male wrestlers. That alone tells you how unhealthy their relationship was. Things came to a head during a wrestling tour in Paris. The wrestling ring didn't have steps that day, so Hogan lifted Elizabeth into the ring by her waist. It seemed innocent enough, just helping her get into the ring. But Savage absolutely lost it. He accused Hogan of inappropriately touching his wife, and a massive argument broke out backstage. Other wrestlers had to intervene before things got physical. Hogan later talked about this incident, saying he had to apologize even though he insisted he didn't mean anything inappropriate by it. But the tension between the two men was now impossible to ignore. The most controversial incident happened in 1992, while Hogan was filming a movie in Miami. Elizabeth was having serious problems in her marriage, and Hogan invited her to stay with his wife and children to get away and clear her head. Savage was on the road to arcing and didn't know where his wife had gone. When he found out she was in Miami with the Hogans, he completely freaked out. He flew there immediately and stormed into the hotel, yelling and demanding to know where Elizabeth was. Savage later blamed the Hogans for the breakdown of his marriage. He believed they had influenced Elizabeth against him and encouraged her to leave. Some wrestlers even claimed that Elizabeth had gotten involved with a producer friend of Hogan's while staying there, suggesting Hogan had indirectly helped her cheat. Shortly after returning home from Miami, Elizabeth filed for divorce. The marriage was over, and some people pointed fingers at Hogan for his role in what happened. Beyond the Elizabeth situation, Hogan's personal life has been marked by numerous troubling allegations involving women. His ex-wife Linda, who was married to him from 1983 to 2009, made multiple public accusations of abuse during their messy divorce. She detailed these claims in a book she wrote in 2011. Linda alleged that Hogan had dragged her by her hair, choked her, thrown objects, held her down on the bed with his hands around her throat, and generally created an atmosphere of fear. She said she was constantly afraid he might kill her in one of his rages. Hogan responded by suing her for defamation, calling her allegations outrageous lies designed to sell her book. He denied everything and sought damages for the harm to his reputation. The case highlighted just how bitter and ugly their divorce had become, with serious accusations flying in both directions. An even more serious allegation came in 1996 from a businesswoman who claimed Hogan had assaulted her in his hotel room during a wrestling event in Minneapolis the previous year. She said she had been helping with merchandise for one of Hogan's business ventures and went to his room to deliver items when he forced her into adult activities against her will. She also claimed to have evidence that he had done similar things to another woman. Before going public, her lawyer sent Hogan a letter offering to settle the matter financially. Hogan immediately sued her for extortion, completely denying her claims. A wrestling announcer who said he was with Hogan that day backed him up, stating he was present the entire time and nothing happened. The woman filed a counter lawsuit, and eventually the case was settled out of court with no public details released. We'll never know exactly what the truth was, but the fact that it was settled rather than fought in court raises questions. Then there's the infamous adult tape scandal that nearly destroyed Hogan's career. In 2006, Hogan was secretly recorded during an intimate encounter with the wife of a radio host friend. The recording included not just adult content, but also Hogan making shockingly racist comments, complaining about his daughter dating a black man, and using slurs. When portions of this tape leaked in 2012, and the audio became public in 2015, WWE had no choice but to fire him. Stores stopped selling his merchandise, and he was essentially erased from wrestling history for several years. It's important to note that Stephanie McMahon herself isn't without controversy. One of the biggest involves her relationship with Triple H, the wrestler she eventually married. Before they got together, Triple H was dating another wrestler named Chyna, who was breaking barriers as one of the first women to compete against men. Chyna later claimed that Triple H had an affair with Stephanie while they were still together, and that this affair led to her being pushed out of WWE. She was released in 2001 shortly after their breakup became public, and she accused the McMahon family of blackballing her from the industry. It's a sad story of how personal relationships and power dynamics destroyed what could have been a legendary career. Stephanie has also faced questions about what she knew regarding her father Vince McMahon's own serious misconduct allegations. A lawsuit filed in 2024 accused Vince of trafficking and assault, with claims that multiple WWE executives knew about the situation and did nothing. Reports suggested Stephanie may have been aware of some of her father's inappropriate relationships, though she wasn't charged with any wrongdoing herself. She resigned from her position in early 2023 as these investigations were heating up. One of Hogan's most damaging actions from a broader perspective was his role in destroying efforts to unionize wrestlers back in 1984. When wrestler Jesse Ventura tried to organize wrestlers to fight for better pay, health benefits, and basic protections, Hogan immediately told Vince McMahon about it. This effectively killed the unionization effort before it could start. Hogan admitted years later that his loyalty was to Vince and protecting his own spot at the top. This decision affected everyone in wrestling, including women wrestlers who were earning far less money and facing even more exploitative conditions than the men. During Vince McMahon's steroid trial in 1994, Hogan testified under immunity and admitted to widespread steroid use in wrestling, including his own. While he denied that Vince supplied him with steroids, his testimony exposed a culture that pressured performers to enhance their bodies through dangerous drugs. This created unrealistic standards and health risks that affected everyone, including the women in wrestling who faced intense pressure regarding their appearance. Throughout his career, Hogan has also been caught in countless lies and exaggerations that damaged his credibility. He once claimed to have wrestled 400 days in a single year, which is mathematically impossible. He said he was considered to be the bass player for Metallica, which the band debunked. He claimed he turned down the opportunity to endorse the George Foreman grill and lost millions, but George Foreman confirmed no such offer was ever made. These constant fabrications made people question everything Hogan said. Hogan's family life has also been controversial. Awkward photos of him applying suntan lotion to his adult daughter's thighs and backside sparked widespread criticism, with many people calling the images inappropriate and creepy. His daughter Brooke posted on social media in early 2025, alleging verbal, mental, and physical abuse from both parents during her childhood. The family dysfunction that played out publicly painted a picture very different from the wholesome image Hogan tried to project. There's also been a persistent rumor in wrestling circles for years about an alleged inappropriate relationship between Randy Savage and a teenage Stephanie McMahon in the early 90s. The rumor suggests this was why Savage suddenly left WWE in 1994 and wasn't brought back until after his death. Some people have speculated that Hogan knew about this situation and stayed silent. However, multiple people close to the situation have denied these rumors, and there's no concrete evidence to support them. But the fact that such rumors persist speaks to the culture of secrecy and cover-ups that have long plagued the wrestling industry. The wrestling world was shocked when news broke on July 24, 2025 that Hulk Hogan had passed away at age 71 in his home in Florida. The cause was cardiac arrest, which happened about a month after he underwent major spinal surgery. His death came exactly 10 years to the day after WWE fired him over the racism scandal, a timing that many found eerily significant. The reaction to Hogan's death was massive and complicated. Wrestling organizations held tribute shows with special video packages and bell salutes. Fellow wrestlers posted emotional messages on social media. The Rock, John Cena, Triple H, and many others shared memories and praised his influence on their careers. Even CM Punk, who had been critical of Hogan in the past, showed respect for his legacy while noting that you can honor someone's contributions without endorsing their personal views. Political figures also weighed in. President Donald Trump, a longtime friend, called Hogan a true American hero and ordered flags lowered to half-mast. Actors and athletes shared stories about meeting him or being inspired by him. For millions of people around the world, Hogan's death marked the end of an era. But not everyone mourned without reservation. Many tributes came with caveats, acknowledging his entertainment contributions while also noting his controversies. Some wrestling fans, particularly younger ones who grew up knowing about his scandals, were more critical in their assessments. They argued that dying doesn't erase the harm someone caused in life. The conversation became a broader debate about how we should remember flawed public figures. In the wake of Hogan's death, Stephanie McMahon maintained her characteristic strategic silence. She didn't issue a public statement, didn't post a tribute on social media, and didn't appear at any memorial events. Her silence was notable, especially given her position in the wrestling industry and her family's long history with Hogan. Some saw her lack of comment as respectful restraint, while others interpreted it as a final statement about her true feelings toward him. The online reaction to everything was intense. Clips of Stephanie's earlier interview admitting she was never a Hogan fan resurfaced and went viral all over again. People created memes and video edits contrasting her words with footage of her as a child modeling Hogan merchandise. The irony and complexity of their relationship became a hot topic of discussion. Overall, sentiment analysis showed that about 80 to 90% of reactions skewed positive toward Stephanie, with many younger fans in particular appreciating her honesty. Hogan's death raised difficult questions that society is still wrestling with, no pun intended. How do we remember? Sure, people who entertained millions but also caused real harm? Should positive contributions outweigh documented misconduct? Can we separate the performer from the person? Different people reach different conclusions based on their own values and experiences. One significant aspect of this conversation centers on Hogan's impact on women's wrestling. During his era, women in wrestling were primarily relegated to secondary roles as managers, eye candy, or participants in novelty matches. They were sexualized and undervalued. The contrast with today's women's wrestling, which Stephanie McMahon helped champion, couldn't be more stark. Modern women wrestlers are treated as legitimate athletes who main event major shows. This evolution represents real progress, even if there's still work to be done. As we reach the end of this story, several important points stand out. First, Stephanie McMahon's willingness to honestly admit she was never a Hogan fan, combined with her consistent professional criticism of his wrestling ability, shows a rare level of authenticity. Her strategic silence on his more serious controversies demonstrates political intelligence, but her candor about her personal feelings shows integrity. Second, the wrestling industry's long history of protecting powerful men while silencing victims has created an environment where both legitimate allegations and rumors can flourish. The industry must continue working toward greater transparency and accountability to rebuild trust and provide a safer environment for everyone. Finally, Hogan's death marks the end of an era, but not the end of conversations about his legacy. The wrestling world will continue grappling with how to discuss and remember figures who made significant positive contributions while also engaging in documented harmful behavior. There are no easy answers. The story of Stephanie McMahon and Hulk Hogan is ultimately about power, accountability, and the complex ways personal relationships intersect with professional obligations. It's a reminder that behind the manufactured drama of professional wrestling are real human beings with real flaws, real virtues, and real consequences for their actions. As wrestling continues to evolve and hopefully improve, the lessons from examining these complicated legacies will be crucial for creating a better future. The truth is always more complex than any simple narrative can capture, but it's in wrestling with that complexity that we find the path toward genuine progress. If this story opened your eyes to things you didn't know before, please hit that like button and share this video with other wrestling fans who need to hear the truth. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dives into the real stories behind wrestling's biggest moments. Drop a comment below telling us what you think about Stephanie's revelations and Hogan's complicated legacy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.